Back when I was in school studying film, there was a common lesson when it came to breaking down works or thinking about creating one of your own. Relationships are the lifeblood of any story. Dialogue can be sharp or witty, shots can be beautifully composed, but relationships are why we care about anything that's going on. Without building and changing dynamics between characters, a film is just a shell of a story. Romance anime take this idea and run with it. By making love the center of the story itself, it creates a solar system of plot with that relationship as the sun shining in the middle. Other story beats, side characters, external goals, and ambitions, they all orbit around that central guiding light. This structure makes things all the more interesting when a character is introduced into one of these stories who sees themselves as outside of love's reach, or undeserving of it. Both Anko/Kyoko from Call of the Night and Subaru from the Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity fit this brief, existing at the very edges of the machinations of love. They're the Plutos of their respective love systems, to complete the metaphor. But when it comes to how they view and act on their feelings towards love, they are completely different. So that's what we're going to dive into today, looking at these two characters who start out at a distance from love, lost in the space between them. Hey, Editing Slam checking in here. I referred to the detective in Call of the Night as Kyoko for all of this video. I did that mainly because I was focused on the scenes of her and Nazuna in the past, before she renamed herself. I have since learned though that it's way more common to refer to her as Anko. That is totally my bad, please forgive me, and I hope it doesn't get in the way of your enjoyment of the video. Anyway, back to it. Both of our characters start with a resentment towards love. They have traumatic backstories that have shaped how they view relationships, with Subaru's bullying and Kyoko's twisted family dynamic. It's important to note here that Kyoko had a jaded view of love even before her father turned, and that extremely damaging incident only served to solidify many of her feelings. Both Subaru and Kyoko are walled-off people, hesitant to share how they feel with others. They are dark and cold people, and this eats away at them. This distance from love is presented very much as a corrupting force by the two shows, and when they inevitably find compassion and companionship, it is a healing force of sorts. Most importantly is the shared idea that they view themselves as undeserving of love. Under the layers of hate, they are scared of love, of being vulnerable, of sharing themselves with another. Seeing how this fear transforms them into bitter people is what makes them so sad, and what eventually makes their return to love so rewarding. I think it's also interesting how both of them cling to their one friend, pouring all of their affections into them almost desperately. Now, the specifics of these relationships are very different, but this anxious attachment is a firmly shared trait. Both Subaru and Kyoko are characters that start in the shadow of love, brooding in its chilly absence, and they both go on journeys of coming to find it again. We'll look at Kyoko in depth first. I find her far and away the most interesting character in Call of the Night, specifically due to the depth of her character and how interestingly she operates as an antagonist in Season 2. Her backstory of being raised in a neglectful household, ignored by both of her parents, and having the redemption of that family be ripped away by her father's vampiric rage is truly horrifying stuff. When we first meet her, in many ways she's like Subaru. She's drifting through her isolation. Not content, but not exactly trying to change things. Just slowly being crushed under this weight. When Nazuna comes into her life, however, she quickly becomes attached to her. Kyoko seems closed off to love, but in reality she craves it. Her family ignores her, and this cuts to her core. Having Nazuna be interested and care about her is a lifeline in that darkness. Now, Kyoko differs in our comparison in a key way with her attraction to Nazuna. Coupled with her friendship with Nazuna is another kind of love, a romantic one. Even in our first interaction between the two of them, we see this in play. In this way, Nazuna is both a romantic and companionship awakening for Kyoko, something that plays very nicely with the strong sexual undertones that accompany vampirism in this show. This also makes the split between Nazuna and Kyoko sting even more when it does occur. Kyoko's family being both literally and figuratively torn apart, is that in bad taste? Takes her isolation from love to a different place. This version of Kyoko is connected to her old self, but different in some very key ways. Learning of love and then having it torn away again makes her more actively looking to harm. The old Kyoko was inward-facing, drowning in loneliness. This Kyoko, under the new name Anko, is set to destroy what she deems brought her this new sadness. At first, that seems to be the vampires. Her love for Nazuna has become a searing hatred, and in a way that only corrupted love can be. She hates Nazuna not just because she hates vampires, but because she feels stupid. Nazuna promised her a new life as a vampire, one where they would be together forever. Now that it's off the table, that idea of eternal love feels childish to Kyoko, makes her feel foolish. She's also deeply self-resenting, as the show deems her unable to love. That means that she cannot become a vampire, yes, but it also seemingly cements her in this loveless existence. We learn towards the end of Season 2, however, that her plan was never to really kill the vampires, but to die herself at the hands of Nazuna. This pivot to suicidal ideations doesn't wipe away our preconceived notions of who Kyoko is. Rather, they deepen them immensely. Kyoko is self-loathing to the extreme, and still seeks to harm. But rather than the vampires, she seeks to destroy herself. She hates the hatred that brews within her, and can't bear to live without love anymore. When Ko and Nazuna save her from herself, we get to see the inklings of hope start to peek in. She may not get to be with Nazuna like she once imagined, but there's also love and friendship and a shared mission that she can still experience with these two. I'm not sure we'll ever get a Season 3 of Call of the Night, but if we do, I can't wait to see how this other kind of love grows and changes within Kyoko. Now on to Subaru. When we first meet her, it is unambiguously through the lens of an antagonist. Just like with Kyoko, she poses a threat to our main romantic pairing. She seeks to harm the Chidori boys, throwing insults their way and pulling Kaoruko away from them. But unlike with Kyoko, her walls are not impenetrable. Even in their first interaction, we see how Saku's words cut to her core. It's clear that she's scared at a deeper level, and is trying to stand up for Kaoruko rather than acting out of malice. And this is the key difference between our two subjects today. Kyoko's distance from love makes her seek to harm, where Subaru's makes her intensely protective. Kyoko seeks to destroy, Subaru seeks to preserve. We see this clearly in Kaoruko and Subaru's interaction on the playground. Kaoruko saved Subaru from her isolation, and in return, Subaru has become her protector. This is partially due to self-preservation. If Subaru lost Kaoruko for any reason, she would be alone again. This is why Rintaro is a threat to her very existence, and the love that Kaoruko has for him scares her. Asking Rintaro himself to stop pursuing Kaoruko is a prime example of this, Subaru's zero-sum view of love. But Kaoruko has always been there for her, and will continue to do so in the future. This continued connection to love allows Subaru the chance to change, even if it is slow and painful. She has retreated into her own twisted view of love, but she hasn't lost her ability to see others and to change her mind. She is able to see the good Rintaro has in his heart, as well as the rest of the Chidori boys. This is a key difference from Kyoko, who has trauma that closes that door completely for a long time. Subaru's connection to Kaoruko is obviously not romantic in nature, so that sort of love with Subaru is not entirely examined in the first season of Fragrant Flower. We get to see a relationship with Saku start to develop though, and that has its own unique quality. Similar to Kaoruko, Saku shows her kindness and consideration, and that's what allows him to start building a connection with Subaru. None of it is derived from attraction in the physical sense, at least not on the surface. Rather, romantic love would be born out of an extension of the companionship that Subaru has felt for Kaoruko for so long, and is starting to feel for the Chidori group. This is very on brand for the anime as a whole, which takes a demonstrably emotional view towards love and connections over physical attraction. Regardless, it's interesting to see how even as her friend group grows and more love enters her life, Subaru has a strong connection between love and responsibility. She is a protector, even if the underlying reasons change subtly over time. Both Kyoko from Call of the Night and Subaru from Fragrant Flower are characters that are first introduced to us in antagonistic lights. As the stories progress though, we learn why they are so closed off to love, so scared of the loneliness that they find themselves in. The ways that their characters' lovelessness manifest are completely different, however. Kyoko becomes a destructive force, her love and loss seeking to eradicate others and herself. Subaru is a protective presence, her one lifeline to Kaoruko guarded intensely. Both are incredibly compelling characters, watching them slowly change through love, loss, and redemption. In a genre that can be entirely feel-good stories sometimes, these darker characters can really stand out, add depth and perspective to their stories and the entire landscape. And that ends this week's episode of Split Screen. If you enjoyed, liking and subscribing helps a ton, as does hitting the hype button on the mobile app. As always, I'm SlamAnime, and I'll catch you on Friday for the next episode of Love and Anime.